Hello and welcome to Design Explorers. I am your host, Hooray.
And I'm Yuki Nishida. Design Explorers is a podcast by the Agoda Design team. Agoda is a global digital travel platform where you can book hotels, vacation homes, flights, and more.
In this podcast, we will be sharing the awesome work from our talented designers and trends in relation in the two of our favorite things, travel and design.
In the next 5 episodes, we'll be exploring the functions of each team of Agoda Design. Travel platforms, core, enterprise, design systems, and customer experience group.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is another episode where we discuss the subdivision of Agoda Design team. Today we're talking to the designers from Enterprise team, Arash, Title, and me. Behind the scenes of creating compelling experiences for our millions of customers, we are designing and optimizing property partner management products to support complex business scenarios for the B2B side. The Agoda Supply product that we design and build give access to Agoda Hotel Partner users to control and update property information, while allowing over 600,000 properties over the world to manage their property content, prices, allotment, customer segments, promotions, and market exposure. In order to maximize the value of the product, and we built for our hotel partners to drive mutual success, we have a strong design team to drive the design solutions for complex user and business problems. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Title, product designer who working on the enterprise team. I have been in Agoda for 3.5 years already. Started on the first couple years as a QA engineer in the IT team, and then I decided to move to my new journey as a product designer. Now I'm working on the partner programs, one of the products within the enterprise team, to help our hotels as our partners, getting more bookings, getting more visibilities, and eventually they will get more revenue from this kind of campaign.
So my name is Rachel. I'm the co-host of the show, but today I am joining as a guest. So I've been in Agoda for 5 years. I started in the consumer-facing products, but then within a couple of years, I transited to many different projects, from personalization, property content, etc. And eventually, 2 years ago, I transferred to the enterprise team. So in enterprise team now, I work on internal tools for Agoda. Arash, your turn.
Hello everyone, my name is Arash and I work for the supply team. I essentially take care of the YCS, which is a short form for Yield Control System. It's a hotel-facing tool, which hotels might normally call an extranet. The basic functionality for YCS is to ensure we have the best prices from the hotels, and we also have enough availability, or what we might call is we have enough rooms to sell for the customers.
Awesome. I think we've touched a little bit on what you and your team does. If you would actually, Title and Rachel, elaborate a little bit more about what you currently work on, that would be great.
Yeah, okay, for the product I'm working on, it's called Partner Program, right? So it's the marketing tool for our hotel to participate on this campaign. So basically what we help them is we increase their visibility on Agoda and make sure that they have a best attractive price and be competitive with their competitors. And eventually, we hope that they will get more bookings. Besides from that, we help the hotel. We also generate a lot of margin and revenue to drive the business as well.
For me, the main contribution on the internal tools is for the company that do A/B testing tool that we use as Agoda. So the platform started as something that just for a developer to check for code errors, to now that it has available for PMs and for any Agoda related product person to use as a tool to understand the users, the customers. So me and my teammates is dedicated to make those data information more approachable for people without coding experiences. And it's very important to gain insights from experiments we do, like whether it wins or loses.
So yeah, Agoda is very well known for our experimentation culture and how we A/B test almost everything that we launch, right? And that is one of the tools that Rachel is working on. So I'd love to touch a little bit more on that throughout the episode today. But I would like to kind of begin with my hypothesis or understanding of the current situation as you guys are enterprise designers. So as enterprise designers, your work is somewhat mysterious and hidden behind doors to travelers. And most likely you in the audience as well don't kind of fully grasp the concept of what it is that enterprise designers work on. And to be honest, even non-enterprise designers at Agoda still struggle to grasp the full picture of the work that you do. Whenever I talk to enterprise designers like Tidal, there's so much in the playing field that I feel like we almost always gravitate towards like a whiteboard and start drawing diagrams in order to aid my comprehension. And so my job today is to kind of uncover the veil and put the spotlight on the work that you guys do. So please share with us what are some aspects that you enjoy working on as an enterprise designer?
So supply team is like a Pandora's box. It might look crazy from the outside, but once you start working on it, it gets easier and easier. So I would say the best thing about working within the supply team is gaining the domain knowledge and then using that domain knowledge to solve the problems. So when you join the team initially, you have literally little to no context on how supply side works. As you just mentioned, even the core designers might have little to no context about anything. Slowly and steadily, you start gaining the domain knowledge on how things work, how our systems work, how the processes work within different teams. And once you start understanding these things and you start understanding how the business works and what the user needs are, so you start building better and better solutions. I think that's one of the best thing about working within the supply team. And few other things that I can probably mention are that one of the most crucial thing that matters to our customers and hotel is the pricing of each room or each offer that the customer might see on agoda.com or Agoda's app. So customers want the best pricing and the hotel wants to maximize their revenue and they also want to ensure they have high occupancy. So it's a very tug of war kind of game that the customer wants the best pricing and the hotel wants the most revenue as well. So hence, big focus of the supply team is always on the pricing and figuring out that how do we ensure the best pricing for our customers and best revenue for our hotels is something really, really interesting within the supply team. And because of that, a lot of our tools, for example, rate channels or channel discounts, promotions, are a lot focused. There's a big emphasis on these features within the supply team. Next thing I would like to focus upon, which makes working within the supply team interesting, is lately we have been driving a lot of design initiatives. To summarize these things very quickly, I would say we identify a problem area, we build a hypothesis around it, then we start by sizing the opportunity. What's the potential impact of anything that we are trying to solve? So once we size an opportunity, we make a pitch around it, and we try to solve it through the designs. We pitch it to our product owners, then we might make a pitch to our senior leadership team as well. I think this is something that this is a kind of culture that we have been fostering lately, which is pretty good. And last, I would say, due to the nature of the business, we have to deal with a lot of stakeholders across the organization. It's not just the designers or the product owners within our team. We have to deal with with stakeholders across teams. They might be PS teams, PD teams. When I say PD, I mean product partner development team, AST teams, which are accommodation service teams, basically the agents who call the properties as well. So that's another interesting thing. And interviewing these stakeholders is pretty easy. And whenever we are trying to solve something, we can always call them up and validate our initial ideas. And conducting internal research is pretty easy. So that's another interesting thing for supply team.
Yeah, okay. So the product I'm working on is called Partner Programs, right? It's a marketing tool for our hotel to participate on this kind of campaign. We helping this kind of hotel who join this campaign to boosting their visibility on the Agoda. And some of marketing campaign that we have, we also boosting them beyond Agoda as well. Such as like we boosting more, like we bidding more on the play per click and meta search engine. We also making sure that they are exposed to our affiliate platform as well. Since Agoda have a lot of partner, so we try to make sure that hotel is getting the most value of this kind of campaign to getting more visibility to their traffic or their property. And we try to make sure that the hotel also have the best attractive price to make it competitive with their competitor as well. And eventually they will get more bookings because price is competitive and also they have more travelers to see their property. And besides we help the hotel itself, we also generate more revenue to drive Agoda business as well.
Yeah, and besides the supply part of it, like as a designer for internal tools, I don't really understand or have the adequate knowledge for how experiments created before. And I think working on this project really gives a lot more perspective and understanding how we use those data. And more importantly, how to influence people in the company to form a stronger hypothesis before running any experiments on the website. I think that has been a big goal achieved that we wanted to make for our team. And because the usage of the internal tool is very, very broad, I think my teammate and I were able to reach out and discuss problem with the user very directly and relatively easily from compared to with the hotels or with customers. The recruit is very simple, that we can direct just message someone and then just ask questions. So I think that it is part of this company's culture that embraces changes for the better. So, as a core spirit of Agoda, we make assumptions, we experiment, and we learn from the result. And that is exactly the same principle that we follow when we design for internal tools, even though it is to test something. So the feedback sessions within the teams are extremely helpful, but more so like the openness of people in Agoda that are really happy to help us improve. So we were able to find participants for interview, for a quick user test, like very easily within the company.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, listening to all of your answers, there's a lot of similarities as well as differences that I see. And just to kind of break it down in my own head, I think Agoda is data-informed design decisions or data-driven design decisions are embedded throughout Agoda, no matter which team that we have talked to so far. I think that's true for enterprise, travel platforms, core, and I believe almost every team in Agoda. But I think that the main differences that designers have to go through, that is enterprise and non-enterprise, is probably the research, right? I feel like in front consumer-facing designers, there's a lot of assumptions that are simply agreed upon just because of the stakeholders or the decision makers kind of project themselves as one of their users. But then you guys are simply not able to do that since you don't have you're not the person that you're designing your solutions for. So there's a lot of, I guess, research and the attempt to validate a lot of the assumptions right from the beginning, and that isn't a shared process or assumption. So I really appreciate you all sharing that. Moving on, as designers working on solutions that you're not a user of, it requires tremendous patience, dedication, and planning. And as a result, your domain knowledge expands along with it, as Arash mentioned. And within this journey of learning about your users and crafting solutions, what do you find most challenging?
I think let me talk about the industry problem first. Hotels or properties. When I say properties, they might be apartments or hotels. So hotels are generally listed on multiple OTAs. OTAs are online travel agencies. For example, Booking.com, Agoda, Expedia. All of them are a form of online travel agencies. Now, each OTA has a tool which the hotels use to manage their rates, bookings, and availability. So if you're not adding any value for the hotel users, you won't be able to drive any engagement with them. So which means if you're not driving any engagement on your extranet, which in our case is YCS, you will have little to no value to offer to the partner, which means you will get less competitive rates, you will have less availability to sell to our end customers. So this is one of the most tricky area that we work upon, that how do you offer a better experience to the partners and they find value in your tool and they engage more often. That's one of the initial problems that one of the most common problems that we face in the supply side. On to the second challenge that we face is enterprise teams. We do not generally have as much visibility as the consumer designers do externally. So as Yuki, you mentioned that you can put yourself in the shoes of a normal consumer and see, hey, I'm about to make a booking for X destination from this date to this date. You can imagine yourself as an end customer as well. But in our case, we have to build that empathy over the time. So that's not the only problem. As you're gaining the supply knowledge, the domain knowledge, you have to you have to explain your work to other audience as well, be it your product owners, be it other stakeholders from different teams. So when you need to do that, even the audience need to have a certain level of understanding of how the system works. And I think that's where the conversations become a little bit too complex. So because everyone needs to have that common footing on the ground, hey, everyone needs to understand how those systems work. I think that's where the supply team can get a little bit complex to work upon, but that's the beauty in it as well. Like, how do you solve these problems? On to the next point. Conducting research with our partners can be a little bit of a lengthy process. So there are a lot of legal things involved as well. There are a lot of logistics problem involved as well, which make the whole process a little bit longer. To give you a very brief overview on these things, hotels have certain employees who take care of their pricing. They have different employees who take care of reservation. They have people who take care of their finances. So now, based upon the size of hotel, this might be a same person, or it might be a totally different person who's taking care of these things. Now, that's where when you're trying to recruit a person, hey, I want to interview a person who takes care of the pricing at a certain hotel. Now, figuring out who this person might be, this whole logistic part can get a little bit lengthy and it can get a little bit complex as well. How do you reach out to them? Do you reach out to them through your market managers, or do you reach out to them through emails? What do you offer them? So this whole logistic part is a little bit tricky, in my opinion, that how do we source these right candidates without any bias? Because a lot of the times we have seen, if we reach out to right candidates through market managers, they might already have a good partnership with us. So they won't be delivering very critical feedback they might not deliver very critical feedback as a user, which is something we are not looking forward to. We want them to be more critical with us. We want them to be more honest with us. And last part about these interviews is each hotel might have a very different strategy from each other. So if your sample size is really, really small, you might have a very biased answer from a very specific geography. Let's say if you're only interviewing hotels from Thailand and they all have a similar strategy, you will only address to a very specific type of audience. I think this is something that we struggle with every day. How many hotels should we interview? We keep on evolving our strategy as well around conducting the research as well. On to the next point. I think it takes a lot of time to execute ideas within the supply team. Designing things is the easier part, but once you have to validate those ideas with the right audience, prove the value of those ideas is where it gets a little bit tricky. So it takes longer and longer to convince audience, hey, we have X idea. We know this is the value of it. You have to conduct the research around it. And then eventually, once they are convinced about it, you have to be very persistent till the end, until it gets executed. So let's say you invested 2 quarters in proving the value of an idea, then you might have to wait for another 2 or 3 quarters till the idea gets executed. So that might happen. Sometimes it might be really fast. Sometimes you might have to wait for a long duration until your idea gets implemented. At the end of the day, Agoda is a business. We earn a portion of booking amount whenever a customer makes a booking, and we have to find a balance between the business needs and the partner needs as well. I think that's another tricky thing. How do you balance both of these things, the partner need and the business needs and the partner needs? How do you find the right balance is another complex thing we face.
Right. I think before we move on to title, I want to actually clarify a bit about research. In the initial question, you did mention that research can be something that can be quickly done. And at times, on the other side of the coin, you said it can be tedious to find a good sample size or reach out to the right person. And so, like, in what instances is it really easy to conduct research, and at times where you find a challenge in conducting research?
I would divide the research part into 2 phases. The first one is internal research, and the second one is external research. Internal research would be our stakeholders, for example, market managers who deal with the properties. They are also users who are using the same tool as the properties to manage availability, to manage the pricing of a hotel. So what I'm trying to say is,
for our audience, who are market managers?
So market managers are, let's say you have a hotel in Thailand. You would be talking to someone within Agoda. He would be a market manager who will help you with your strategy, who will give you certain advices, who will help you manage your day-to-day operations with Agoda. So these people, they take care of, basically they help you with your operations when they are dealing with Agoda. Yep. So we have internal stakeholders, which are a little bit easier. So we easily know who is working with which hotel, which market manager is dealing in which geography, and reaching out to these people, conducting the interviews, it's pretty straightforward. You come up with the script, you know which answers you want them to answer, or it could be a very open-ended research as well. So reaching out to them, the research could be conducted within 1 or 2 weeks as well. It could be a very rough script as well. So that's why the whole flow could be really, really fast. But once we are dealing with the external stakeholders, when I say external stakeholders, I mean hotels or any other partners, for example, apartments, and especially, but we are generally talking about the hotels. So that's where the process could be really, really lengthy. As I initially said, finding the right audience, reaching out to them, the logistic part, conducting the research, and finally ensuring you have enough sample size, and then synthesizing all the feedback and coming up with the recommendations from the user research. It could be a little bit of lengthy process.
Right. Accessibility of the users is actually quite difficult to find.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah, and as I mentioned previously about we need to trade off between business need and hotel experience, right? So this one is the huge problem in my product as well. So especially for partner program, right? There is a huge gap between business and the hotel experience that Agoda want more revenue, right? But hotel want to reduce their costs and maximize their revenue. So as a partner program teams, I need to find a balance between Agoda and the business or the hotel itself by helping the hotel getting more booking with a reasonable cost of the program. So in the other hand, Agoda also get more revenue if the hotel get more bookings. So this is the thing that we have in the partner program itself.
Yeah, in my opinion, in general, I think just the lack of resources can be sometimes frustrating. I think as a designer from the back end of things, I often see a lot of frictions between the stakeholders and designer. Kind of like what Taido just mentioned, like since we presume what is best for user is not something that's easy to be tested and very complex. The risk of experimenting with something that we have no clues about is just too high. So that's when we kind of learn to choose the battles and be smart and using the resources that we have in hand to kind of provide best possible outcomes. But at the same time, I do think that, we do see the stakeholders and the senior leadership team of Agoda kind of recognize our efforts. Ours recently, for example, just like presented in front of senior leadership to get buy-ins for the products. It must be a very intimidating experience, but very remarkable. So yeah, I think the challenges are definitely there, but that's why we join in a team as well.
Yeah, I actually have a quick point to kind of double click on that challenge part. Like, resources is, of course, please let me know if you're in a team where there's too much resource. But I think a lot of team is in their own ways struggling with research. In your case, how do you prioritize things to work on over others?
I think for my team, I think the internal tools, the research process is relatively easier. How do I prioritize things? I think it's every quarters have their goals and the certain goals that we wanted to reach, and I think we need to quickly define if these are something that needed to be researched on. Is it a user interview? Is it a quick user testing? Is it something that we can do desktop benchmarking about? That's how kind of for my team to prioritize what are to be done and what are just some known problem that can be just fixed by design solutions.
I can touch upon that point as well. I think we just hired a new researcher within our team, and she has started taking care of research of the main research points that we had listed. But how the whole process worked was that the whole team, they listed down the pointers that which required research, X, Y, Z items. The whole team gave a list of thorough items that they want her to work upon, and we kind of started prioritizing things according to the value of each pointer. So she tried to dig into it. She was talking to product folks as well. I think after quite a lot of consideration, she prioritized X and Y items that she would work each quarter. So I think that's how we prioritize the items within the research, especially for YCS.
Yeah, I think there's always the matrix of the efforts and impact, how we prioritize anything. What are the hanging fruits that are high impact with the least effort? That's something that takes the most priority in for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for following my impromptu question, but I have more. So I think it's enterprise team. The other difference that I really notice is that you have more stakeholders, as in hotels or partners, as you call them, is another stakeholder that you have to satisfy, because consumer-facing designers, whatever satisfies the user or converts better is taken. But that's not really the case in enterprise, right? Even if hotels enjoy it, maybe Agoda would enjoy less of it, right? So there's a I guess, push and pull game that needs to happen where you have to strike a balance, right? How is that achieved, or like how do we make that decisions in order to strike the right balance?
Yeah, talking about that thing, right? So for the thing that we're doing right now, we need to talking on the business first, whether what they actually want from this kind of product, and then we just talking to the user as well, what is they actually want on this program. So for example, like for partner program, so we need to talk with stakeholder like business team and also product manager to understand that, okay, what is they actually need and what is the goal of the building the feature or the product that we are working on. And then we need to do a lot of research on the hotel side to understand what they actually need. So because if we build a product that hotel doesn't want or doesn't want to boost on the marketing side for them, pointless, right? That hotel will not use the product, and then we cannot increase any revenue on that side. So we need to understand for the goal for both sides, for the hotel and for the business, and find a balance between this kind of thing. So we serve both business need and we serve both on the hotel need as well.
I can give you an example that we have been testing out a demand dashboard on our extranet or YCS. So once we launched it, once we were testing it, and we recently launched it as well, we saw a really good response to it. Once the hotels have future demand, once they have access to future demand, on which dates they are expecting more travelers, so they are more likely to give us more rooms. They are likely to give rates based upon their strategy. I won't say better rates or like higher rate or lower rates, but as per their strategy, they give us their rates. So it is good for Agoda as well, and it is good for their strategy as well.
The other question is kind of based on your previous experiences in either other teams or organizations that you've worked in or have learned about in general. Can you shed some light on how your work as an enterprise designer at Agoda might be unique from other enterprise designers in other organizations?
I think that the most different part from the consumer facing versus enterprise is definitely the amount of domain knowledge that needed for certain projects. I remember when I was first starting working in enterprise team, there's a new tool that I never heard of that Agoda is using every week. And that fascinates me a lot. I learned a lot through those experiences, but the learning curve is definitely very steep. To kind of needed to understand a lot of things then rather than just putting your shoes as a traveler and designing for the customers. That is the biggest part of the differences that I faced.
Based upon my past experience, I would say the scale of data and experimentation within Agoda is pretty amazing. We in my previous organizations, they used to use data as well. But the way we utilize data, the way across organization we speak the same language of data is pretty amazing. So all I can say is data is deeply ingrained within the culture of Agoda. We measure everything, and we measure everything to analyze if things we are building, they have any value for our business or for our users. That's something that's really amazing about Agoda.
Awesome. And as our last question, for our audience who might be interested in joining the enterprise team, please kind of give us an idea of the type of person that would enjoy tackling the challenges that you work on daily.
So the problems that we normally solve within supply team are a little bit more ambiguous and sometimes a little bit complex. And in order to do so, you need to have a really good learning mindset. As I initially stated, you'll have to build your domain knowledge, and the problem solving slowly and steadily it becomes more easy and more interesting as well. That's what I would say. If you have the learning mindset and you have a knack for solving problems, you would love to join our supply team.
I think that is more about like taking the ownership. In this team, it requires a lot of communication with the people that you're unfamiliar with, the team that you never heard of, and then suddenly you need to like have a discussion with them about the project you barely know. So I think the courage to really take a step up and like take ownership of the project is a very important quality that in to join this team.
Yeah, it's a platform, problem solving and growth mindset, and taking the ownership, right? We didn't want to work with someone who didn't want an interest in B2B product, which you will be involved in business decision process, stakeholder management, and do tons of research with the hotel. So if this is sound like what you are passionate with, so the Agoda Enterprise Design team is your answer.
That is all the time that we have for today. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you are listening, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe to our show to get notified when we are releasing a new episode.
And if you want to learn more about the work of the design team at Agoda, visit agoda.design. Thanks again for listening and hope to see you in our next episode.